The new call walk-in form allows for our AFC reception staff to document all calls and walk-in/visitor requests in our database, CaseWorthy. To do that, you will log into CaseWorthy and immediately you will see there's two options: the new call and walk-in button, as well as a summary form of all of those calls. To get started, you're going to want to click the little button that has a plus sign, and it'll lead you into the form. This form will be broken up into 3 main sections, starting off with some general information about the encounter type. The encounter type offers 2 options, the phone and walk-in. If this is a call, you would select phone. If this is a visitor to AFC, you would select walk-in. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to keep it as phone. Next, you'll want to select a type. So who is the caller and or the visitor to AFC? Is this a client? Is this a landlord? Is this a vendor? If we select client, it does offer you more information further on into the form. But before we get there, we do also need to identify the general reason for the call. And typically, these are related to one of 2 things, either a housing program or an HIV care program. If the caller or visitor is a landlord, we also will be required to enter general reason for that call or walk-in. The reasons are a little different. They typically, for a landlord or a vendor, those would have to do with payment issues and or client-tenant issues. You'll also notice that when you select landlord or vendor, you will have more information further down. Before we get there, let's keep it as client and select one of the general reasons, which is housing. Before we proceed to the staff directory to help direct that caller or the visitor, we will want to take a look and see if that caller is in our system already. To do that, you're going to click the magnifying glass and do a Find Client Lookup. Find Client Lookup can be used using last name, first name, birth date, and client ID or client ID. I'm going to look for Homer Simpson in our database, and it looks like this person is in our system. Homer is a fake client, and this is demo data, so it's all fictional. When I selected Homer, you'll notice that immediately it's giving me information about the client, so client alerts, as well as some overview numbers and information about enrollments that the client has on file. Now, if I search the system and the client is not available, I'm going to go ahead and clear this real quickly. You do have the option of selecting no client record and just typing in that caller's first and last name. If the caller chooses to remain anonymous, you are able to select anonymous caller, and it will allow you to proceed with the directory so that you are able to then triage that call appropriately. This setup is exactly the same for HIV care programs. You are still required to look up the caller via the client lookup, identify if there if there is a call record or not, and before proceeding to the staff directory. Now let me go back to Homer Simpson just so that we are able to move forward with the demo. And I need to all right. Now, once you've identified the caller, you are given a staff directory at the bottom. The staff directory allows you to easily look and see who the point of contacts are for that caller. So since this is a client in our system, we have information about them. It is automatically giving you specific information related to that general reason that you identified, as well as that caller. So down here you'll see that staff directory. The first person listed here is Jennifer Jimenez. So I would go ahead, if I wanted to connect the caller, would use this telephone number and or extension to get that caller connected. If Jennifer is not available, I would then move on to Saul Lavinia and so on. If the client is enrolled in a program currently, they will have their current active program staff person listed here. So, and then the last thing you will want to do is include some call details. So who did you connect to? I'm going to write down Jennifer Jimenez. And if I was not able to connect with the caller to the staff person, I would select this. And if I do need to write any brief notes, you can do that. Go ahead and hit save, and it'll bring me back to the main page. The calls and walk-in, it will show up here. You'll see here, this is an existing client that I just recorded. It was for Homer Simpson. Homer didn't have an enrollment, right? But it is documented here. So if I do want to go in and review that information, you can see it. Now let's go back and do a landlord call. So let's say a landlord walked in and wanted to get some general information about a payment. Whoops, wrong thing. I clicked client issue. For payment issues, the first thing that you'll see is a vendor lookup. So instead of a client lookup, it's going to allow you to check the system to see if this landlord that is walking in is currently in our system. So just like that client lookup, you're going to click the magnifying glass and use the system to search for landlord. I do see the landlord here, so I'm just going to click that landlord. Even though the caller or the person who's visiting is saying they are a part of a landlord, this is giving you the option to enter their first and last name. So if I were a part of a big property management company and I was coming into AFC's office and I wanted to inquire about a payment issue, this is where I would then say I am a part of this test property management company and my name is Nora, for example. And it'll allow you to then move past the caller information as well and move down to staff directory. Now the staff directory operates just like what we saw for client calls, right? It's going to give you the options based on the type as well as the general reason. It's going to give you a list of names of people that work at AFC that could help triage this call. So if I were reception and I am trying to triage Nora Test's call or walk in, I would look at this list and say, all right, Joseph Grimaldo is my first line of point of contact. So I'm going to go ahead and dial 283 and try to get this caller or this visitor connected to Joe. Similar to a call, you're going to document who you connected the caller or visitor to. And then if you were not able to connect, you can select that unable to connect box and then hit save. One more scenario here for you. When you click on the new call walk-in option, I'm going to go ahead and say phone and click on landlord vendor. One thing that you'll notice is immediately before you even hit that general reason, you're going to have the staff directory option. However, when you click client tenant issue, it is going to give you options for both, right? It's going to give you the option to look for that landlord in the system. If no landlord is identified, then you have the option of selecting no landlord. It'll also give you the option to look up the client. So if the visitor or caller is saying that this is about a client that's in our programs and they're identifying themselves as the landlord, you're going to want to get both information about the landlord as well as if they identify a client, you can search. If no client is in our system or there's no record of it, you can always select no client. You want to make sure that you're not disclosing any information to a landlord. So you are not to confirm or deny that the client is enrolled or isn't enrolled. This is simply a lookup to easily connect the caller or the visitor to the staff directory. I'm not going to save this record. I just wanted to point that out. And just like the first scenario, if you are looking for a summary of the call, you will see that here this was the last documented call that I logged. I'm able to edit by clicking the edit button. It does give you the option to reopen up that form that you filled out and hit save. And that is the call and walk-in management. Thank you. Bye-bye.